Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Real Estate Success Podcast. I'm your host today, Jim Ingersoll. I am super excited to teach you guys how to get going on your wholesale deals. And I've got what I believe is the best of the best for that, which is Max Maxwell, the famous, the now famous real Max Maxwell. You're going to absolutely love him. And we're going to talk about how he got started, how you can get started, where he's going next, and how he loves to be a giver, which is somebody, as you guys that follow my podcast know, I love having people on that are givers. And Max falls right into that category. By the way, our next live boot camp is in Richmond, Virginia, January 22nd to the 24th. You can register at investortrainingsummit.com. We are selling registrations already. People are booking. And I would advise that you get your registration in because we always book to about 110% every single year. So book early if you want to join us. Max Maxwell, welcome to Real Estate Success today.
Jim, thank you for having me. And I want to say that event in January, I definitely want to be there for sure. I need to be there.
Good. I want you here. I want you to come speak. So there you heard it. You guys got the real live update, which is awesome. Tell me, Max, how did you get started wholesaling? When did it start for you? Where were you at before that, and what happened?
Jim, it's a crazy story. So I've been wholesaling now for about 22 months, right? And 2 years ago, I was broke. I left my corporate job about 3 years ago, and I wanted to start an app, basically a marketplace app to bring basically temporary workers in this field called experiential marketing. I wanted to bring the workers and the people together. Well, that failed. Okay. So I was broke. It failed a year into the deal. I was broke. All my credit cards were extended. I was out of money. And a good friend of mine, his dad was in real estate, and he mentioned the word wholesaling to me. And I know he was super successful. So I was like, if this guy said a word, I need to take a clue. I literally went home, and for the next month, I became completely obsessed on podcasts, on podcasts like you're doing, on YouTube. I learned everything I needed to. I thought I learned everything. I learned everything, at least to take the first step.
Get a good foundation.
Correct. At least I thought I had a good foundation, and then I went out and did it. And I went out and got my first deal within the first month. And my first deal, I made $14,000. Then the following week, I found my next deal, sold it, and I made $7,000. So literally in a month span, I made 21 grand. So going from broke to 21,000 was excellent. It was crazy.
That is amazing. And did you do that there in North Carolina?
Yeah, right in my small town of Winston-Salem, about 4 hours from where you are.
Yep. Excellent. So then you got your first two deals, and I loved wholesaling. I left corporate America wholesaling as well. And when I first started wholesaling, it was like everything I did sort of failed for like 3 months. And then just like everything clicked. And I could have easily given up, and I wouldn't be here with you today. So I just want to encourage everybody that the sort of struggles, don't give up. Stay focused on finding your deals, building your list, and getting it done. So after that first two, did things just sort of evolve and snowball from there for you?
Yeah, it kind of evolved and snowballed. I never looked back from that day. I went and bought a big pack of ramen noodles. When I said I was broke, I went back home. I was living at home with my mother at 30 years old. I know how inconvenient that could be as an adult. So yeah, I went back and I grabbed some ramen noodles. I put the majority of that money right back into the business. And I've never looked back since 22 months into the game now. We've probably done over $2 million in wholesaling fees. Yeah. It's been a roller coaster. I've learned so much about real estate, and every day I'm learning more because wholesaling is the foundation of all real estate investing. And I say that because it teaches you the art of finding a deal. And without a deal, and you know, Jim, without cash flow, without equity, you're not going to build wealth. And that's what wholesaling teaches you how to find both.
You know what else I love about wholesaling is I started full-time real estate in 2006, like right before the crash, right? And I made it through all the way through the crash. So I've seen like a high cycle, the low cycle, and now we're back up pretty high again. The cool thing about wholesaling is it works in all those cycles.
Correct.
And there's minimal risk. So take me through the steps. Like if I had never wholesaled a deal before and I was going to hang out with you there and have a cup of coffee, like how would you instruct me to get rolling? I mean, okay, so I'm going to go to your YouTube channel, which is the real Max Maxwell, right? Because it's really awesome. It's actually where I first found out about you, by the way. But what would be some of the steps for getting started as a brand new wholesaler?
You know, first I would explain what wholesaling is, and it's simply art of finding deeply discounted properties, right? And you can do that. You can wholesale anything in this world, from staples to pens to paper. It's basically getting it at a cheaper price than it's worth on the market and selling it to somebody else that's going to be willing to pay more for it than you bought it for, or that you have it on a contract for. And so by doing that, by knowing what wholesaling is, now you need to go out and identify what it looks like. And I say you don't need money to get started, because I started with no money, negative money. I was overdrafting my Bank of America card in order to get gas in my car. And the first thing I would tell anybody to do is drive for dollars. Now, what that means is simply you go around and drive in neighborhoods that you know or you don't know. Take a different path home, take a different path to work, drive through neighborhoods and find the ugliest house in a pretty neighborhood. And it's usually an eyesore. And how you can identify this, you might find tall grass, you might find unkept bushes, you might find boarded up windows, holes in the roof line, just things like that when you consider and say, man, that house looks vacant, abandoned. And then once you identify several of those properties, you're going to go to what you call the geographical information system, or called GEO. It's basically the online tax record of who owns what piece of parcel in the world. And believe it or not, every single piece of land in this world is owned by somebody or something, right? So it's all documented and marketed. I like to use an app called Landglide. Basically, I can drive around and where I'm at pinpoints, and it'll say, look, it might say Jim owns this house right here. And then from there, you need to find out how to get in contact with Jim. Now, there's several different ways, but that method is called skip tracing. You can use white pages. There's so many websites out there. Just make sure you get accurate and pay the good price for good skip tracing, because data is king in this business. And once you do that, you contact the person. You simply have a conversation with them to see if they are interested in actually selling the property. And more than likely, if the property looks like that, they're somewhat motivated to get rid of it, because they probably inherited the property. They probably went through a divorce, some type of shape or form. They're in some type of what we call stress. And most people with property like that don't know they have an option besides selling it with a real estate agent. And they know they said it's not list ready. So I like to call it, they're in no man's land. There's properties in no man's lands, and somebody's got to do something with it. That's where you come along and you solve problems and you get it under contract. You sell the contract to somebody that does it. But that goes into great detail right there. That's basically the bulk of it, Jim.
So I love that. And I always love driving for dollars. I was in a boarded up house yesterday. It's always quite an experience, as you know. So tell me a little bit about Landglide.
So Landglide is basically a shortcut so that you don't have to find your tax record website. It's an app that basically has a GPS on it. But instead of it just showing you the streets, it's going to show you plots of land. And when you hover over the land, it'll identify who the taxable owner is. And with that, then you can start taking snapshots of it and saving it in your phone. Because even though I have an automated business, everything works without me, I still love the drive for dollars. It's one of the foundations of wholesaling.
I find myself doing it wherever I go. So like if I was coming to your event, October 12th to the 14th in Charlotte, for instance, I just can't turn it off. If I go to the Virgin Islands, I can't turn it off. I see for sale by owner signs. I see high grass, boarded up windows, holes in roofs all over America, whether I'm in Florida, here in Virginia, or wherever I'm at. Do you have this?
I call that obsessed, Jim. And you're obsessed, just like me. You're obsessed with it. But
I love it.
That's what something usually brings great results.
I see opportunity every time.
Yes.
So you'll Landglide it, and then you'll get the owner's name, where they live, and there's a good chance they don't live in that trashy house, right?
Correct. Correct. And you just have a conversation with them. And I think one of the hardest parts, or something that I kind of started doing myself, because when I started this business, Jim, I had no money.
Right.
So I couldn't send mail like a lot of the big companies do. I didn't have the funds to do that. So the easiest thing for me to do was find out how to get a hold of this person through a phone call.
Right.
If I was able to do that, then I'm just going to have a conversation then like I'm having a conversation with you. Hey, my name is Max. I was in this neighborhood, and I think you might own a property on 123 Main Street. And Jim's going to say, yeah, I own it. Well, Jim, I see that the house may look vacant. Do you have any interest in selling that property? You're going to get a couple answers. Yes, no, maybe, who the heck is this? And how the heck did you get my information? And once you break down those barriers, it's just a conversation. Hey, Jim, I'm just a local investor looking to pick up a few pieces of extra property, and this looked like something I might be interested in, only if you're interested in selling. And the conversation goes from there. And then you find your numbers.
So that's great. Let's go back to Skip Trace real quick. If you're brand new and you don't have a lot of people are using TLO and things like that. You mentioned White Pages. What are a couple others that you would recommend for a brand new person who's never done a deal? I think White Pages is a good source.
Yeah, I think it's called White Pages Plus. Mm-hmm. I think there's even People Finder, a simple Google search, even a Facebook search.
I'm glad you brought that up, because you can Facebook people. Everybody's got a Facebook, all ages, millennials, all the way to people that are in their 70s nowadays.
Exactly.
And that's a source that nobody talks about that. And it's
more common. More people older have it than younger, because my niece and nephew that are younger, they're like, I don't have Facebook, I got Snapchat. So Facebook is an old person thing now. So
yes.
It's cool. So yeah, you can Facebook a person and find them and send them a message.
Yeah. So I think that's a good tip too. So Facebook, White Pages, I think works really good. You mentioned White Pages Plus. It's a little better service, I think.
Yeah. Yep. You have that. And then like for one-off searches, there's a company called Skip Genie that I've in the past once or twice. When you start getting bigger and bigger, we use bulk skip tracing like our company does. We use a company called REI Skip.
Yeah.
Just that type of stuff. And it's not hard, Jim. You just need instruction on how to do it. And once you open your eyes and see that there's opportunity in it, man, it's just crazy. And you're basically solving problems and making money.
Yeah. So now you're talking to them on the phone and you ask them, you talk to them and they say, yeah, you know what? I would really like to sell that. It's a problem. It's vacant. I'm behind in my taxes, or I have code violations, or whatever the issue is. The next step is to go meet them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you want to see, hey, look, when can I meet you out of the property? And that's when you start, you want to have good salesmanship. Right. And I don't mean you want to be sleazy sales guy. I mean, you really want to find out what is the motivating factor for this person. Because I've been to houses, Jim, where the person doesn't want a dime. They just want to pay off the 16 grand they have in back taxes on a house that's maybe worth, 90 fixed up. Well, that's a great deal. All day, twice on Sunday. So, now things start getting a little more difficult when it comes to wholesaling, because numbers are important, right? And you need to be able to find out that, hey, this house is worth fixed up maybe 120 grand, okay? Well, you need to be able to get it under contract, right? Get a purchase agreement on it, cheap enough to where you can resell your agreement to somebody else, like a flipper or like a buy and hold landlord. And there's formulas for that. And you have to get decent at estimating cost of repair, somewhat in the ballpark, right? And that's important too.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make, because I remember I would stress in when I first started wholesaling, before I did my first few deals, I mean, I was nervous about coming up with those repair estimates. And what I like to do is sort of throw them into a bucket. Is it 5, 10, 20, 50? And because the buyer is going to determine that. And I find, a landlord buyer is not going to do what a flipper is going to do. Correct. So sort of get it into the right ballpark works for me. Do you agree?
Absolutely, Jim. You know what? A lot of people say, man, how do you figure out the repair cost? And yes, I do know certain costs because I've done flips. I know certain costs on things. But the reality is, I know that going into a house, first of all, there's no such thing as a $10,000 repair. Right? You could agree with that, right? 5 or 10 grand, we throw it out the window.
100%.
I start at 20.
Yeah.
Right. And it's either me 20, 30, 40, or 50. And I would say we're in similar markets. So the medium price house where I'm from is about $150, right?
Okay, ours is around 250, but that's okay.
You're in a better market, man.
Yeah, a little higher. It's going
higher market. So that I know that in my area, if I'm putting $50,000 into a rehab, it's a gut job. It's a level four demolition and reconstruction. So I just need to be in the ballpark because the due diligence relies on the buyer. You're just saying, hey, Jim, I found this house. I got it under contract for 40. We estimate the repairs to be around 30. You might say, Jim might have contractors can do it for 20. Or he might say, no, it's around 45. Well, great. Just make me your highest and best offer.
So tell me a little bit about how you build out your buyers list nowadays.
It's very easy because the market's so hot, everybody's buying. One place where all records reside is in the Register of Deeds office or the tax office. So one thing I do when I get a property under contract, I look to see if there's anybody else flipping in the neighborhood. That's one. What are the recent sales in the neighborhood? Who's recently acquired something in the last 6 months? Who's currently renovating? And then once we do that, we actually attend auctions. Our courthouse still does them live at the courthouse. So we'll approach people that are buying there with cash because cash is necessary to buy at these auctions. And we introduce ourselves and we tell them what we do and that we can find properties together. And, the thing is, they're never going to say, no, I don't want to be on your buyer's list because they're hungry for properties. If they're buying at the auction, they're already overpaying. So you can usually provide them a service for a house that they would pay, 70 for. You could probably get it to them for 60 and still make your profit.
I think that's a great point. At these auctions, everybody's a cash buyer and only one person buys.
Correct.
It's an easy place to pick them up. I agree with you.
And then like records, you can in our county and state, there's this thing called the upset bid period. So when there is an actual auction, then the bid has to be solidified for 10 days, basically meaning that the next person has 10 days to come and upset the current bid. And that leaves a paper trail. And that paper trail usually has who upset the bid, who is what's his number, what's his company. And literally you pick them up the phone and call them, hey, I see that you're bidding on this property here. I happen to find like properties like that. Would you want to join my buyer's list?
So it's pretty easy. Do you segment your list to the point that you know which buyers are buying which properties and which locations? Do you like foster a relationship with the top buyers in your market?
Yes.
Yes. Like when I was wholesaling, I tried to build like a community, like where I was like positioned as the local expert. So I had connections to hard money lenders, to contractors, and I knew where the redevelopment was. I knew where gentrification was happening. And people would come to me as like almost a connector in my industry, and that worked well for me.
And that's a great point, Jim. Go into your local RIAs, and usually a hard money lender or some private money lender is going to be there. Say, hey, who are you lending money to? Because I usually find deals that I can easily pass on to your guys that are borrowing money from you. And it makes sense. He needs to lend money because that's how he makes money. And he has guys that do it. Say, hey, do you mind putting me in contact with your buyers? I would love to throw them deals.
Yeah, I think that's all good. So talk to me how settlement works. So now you've got a contract and an assignment. What happens?
Yeah, so now you have a contract with the actual owner of the home, and you're contractingly saying, listen, I'm going to buy this home from you, in 30 days and 20 days, whatever your contract states, and you're basically going out and finding that buyer. When you find that buyer, you're going to do what we call assign. You're going to assign that buyer your contract. So in the simple terms, at the top, it's going to say Max Maxwell agrees to buy this property on 123 Main Street. Simply what an assignment does, it marks out my name and puts the new guy in position where my name was to complete the contract on how I agree upon it with the seller, right? So it just replaces me. And for replacing me, I'm going to get a fee. That guy wants the property so bad, when he scratches my name out and writes his, he has to agree that he's going to pay me X amount of dollars to assign or inherit my contract that I have with the seller.
I think that's a great point because you're really not selling the house. You're selling your position in the contract, right?
That's it. Your equitable interest. I have an option or an interest to buy this property by this set date. Do you want to do it instead of I do it?
Right. And, I don't know if you know Jeff Watson or not, but he's a lawyer who's he's a friend of mine. He's really been making that point that that's something new wholesalers miss. So I'm glad you made that point as well. It's very, very important. How do you find a good title company?
So how I found it is I asked around, and you want to find people that are actively doing deals like yourself. So if I was in Richmond and I heard about you and I would attend like the RIA or meetups that you put on, I would say, Jim, who are you using for your title company? And you'll probably give me 2 or 3 title companies or attorneys that you use. And since you use them, I'm going to call them up and say, hey, look, I got your number from Jim. I also do some in real estate investing. I do some assignments of contracts. Are you familiar with that? They said, yes. Well, what are your procedures? And the best way is usually just to ask around to other active investors and really don't look at, and if I was in your market, I wouldn't look at you as competition. I would look at you as a resource.
Yeah. And, I think that's the right mindset because people get caught up in competition and stuff. And I never have. I believe in an abundance mindset where the market's big enough for anybody. And I would never want somebody to be limited because I don't think there's enough deals or enough title companies or enough contractors or anything. Mindset's so important for entrepreneurs.
Correct. And it's true, Jim, because you know what? We get a lot of active buyers and wholesalers in our market. And probably out of 3 appointments a month, we might be sharing an appointment with somebody else. Like somebody came before us or somebody's coming after us. But there's usually don't run into other people. There's so many houses.
No, I agree. So at this point of your career, you've had ultra uber success. Are you still learning?
Every day. I mean, I'm attending a subject to and asset protection course here soon because we're seeing a lot of subject to deals.
Yeah.
And you know what that means because you've been in the business long enough. So when you start seeing those come through, you know what's happening. But yeah, I'm learning Jim, I make mistakes every day.
Yeah, so do I. How do you position yourself to continue to learn?
I what I say is when I'm in a room, if I have to be the one talking the most, I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah, I agree.
So with me doing, 10 deals a month, I'm going to go hang out with people doing 20 deals a month, 30
right. So do you like going, you've got your own live event coming up, of course, in October, but so that's a room full of great people. You've got 300 people attending?
400.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of people. Holy
yeah, 400.
That is amazing. And so besides your own event, you're coming to mine. So I know that like you go to other events.
Yeah, I'm in masterminds that, cost some money through the year. I think that's important to invest.
That's how you get into the right room though.
Correct. You pay. And some of the masterminds I'm in are $25,000 a year. You pay, you visit, it's accountability. You have 20, 30 people in the room that are high level investors and you learn from their mistakes and their dealings and they all share this and we meet 4 times a year. It's an accountability measure. It's worth every bit of $25,000.
And do you also read or listen to Audible?
Every day.
How can I know this? You and I have a lot in common. So have you been reading or listening to Audible recently in the last 30 days? Do you have something you could share?
So books, let's just pull it up because, I got so many books.
It's funny because do you know Dan Schwartz from Investor Fuse?
Yes, I was actually, that's funny. I was just talking to Carlos. They're doing their mastermind today.
Yes. And so I was talking to Dan a couple of days ago, just like this. And I asked him the exact same question. You know what he did? Pulled out his phone. He says, let's look. And he and I were doing some of the same Audible books. So what do you got?
So right now I just started reading this called Raising Private Capital. It's called Raising Private Capital, Building the Real Estate Empire Using Other People's Money.
Is that with Jillian Sidoti?
That is from Matt Faircloth.
Okay. All right.
And then I'm also reading it's called Exactly What to Say.
Yeah. Dan and I are also reading that one right now. The exact same book, Max.
And I'm rereading Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference.
Oh, I've had Chris on my podcast and I've met him. That guy changed my negotiating.
Did he? I just became Facebook friends with him, so I'm hoping to have him on my podcast and be able
He will do that, and he's a giver too. He's got so much content, but Chris taught me like calibrated questions and empathy, and it's just so many things that I take to motivated sellers and really help me close deals better. I love it. Those are great tips. Thank you.
Yeah, this is my second time listening to the book, and I'll make a point here. So I grew up dyslexic. I'm dyslexic. I'm better with it now because I identified it and know how to fix it. So I didn't read my first book until 30 years old.
Wow.
I did not complete my first book till 30, and that was Rich Dad Poor Dad. So that book changed my entire life.
Mine too.
And I read it it was on Audible.
Yeah.
So I believe in Audible. I think it's one of the best.
I do too.
Underutilized.
So I've got a book for you from another guy that's dyslexic, who's a good friend of mine. He wrote a book called The Abundance Effect.
Abundance Effect. I'm going to check it out.
Justin Morales out of Colorado. And he's just a real estate investor, but it's a book about mindset. But I've known him a long time and pretty well. And I never knew he was dyslexic, but until I read his book. So you might want to check that one out.
Yeah. Nobody knew until this year when I started saying it. And my mother didn't even know.
That's awesome.
And it's come to find out my mom is dyslexic as well.
That's amazing. Well, Max, I want to respect your time, but how can people connect with you best? You've got like a gazillion followers.
I'm all over social media. I love Instagram. That's The Real Maxwell. I would love everybody to go to my YouTube page. It's just my name. Max
almost
Maxwell.
50,000 subscribers.
Yeah, I can't wait. We're supposed to hit 50,000 this week, so that'll be great. 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. Just search Max Maxwell and Instagram. And I have a Facebook group called Wholesaling.
I'm in it. I like it.
Yeah, and I try to keep it clean. No posting deals, none of that spam stuff. It's literally people, hey, I got a question. Hey, I got a deal. Do you think this is good? Do you think this is bad? And it's basically, if you came to that group, you probably can learn wholesaling if you really.
I would agree. I like that group, and I'm in others as well, of course, but that group, the members help each other. You don't have to answer every question.
Exactly.
It's
that's
like
why
an
I did
online mastermind.
Correct. And it's good. We have about 8 moderators that try to keep it clean because people come in there and put spam. So we try to make it good. But man, I'm everywhere. So if you want to find me, just search Max Maxwell. I'm out there.
All right, Max, you are the real deal, man.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
I have so enjoyed this. I look forward to meeting you in person at one of your events, or at least in January when you come here to Richmond.
Absolutely. Listen, I actually, I'm a pilot, so I fly up to Richmond all the time well, not all the time. I haven't done it recently in the last 3 months, but I go up there and I just go eat pizza at the railroad tracks.
There you go.
So when I'm in town next time, I'll give you a shout.
I love pizza, so let's grab some, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, Max Maxwell, you are the real deal, and I want to thank you for being a giver and for giving on our Real Estate Success podcast today, and congratulations on everything you've done. And for helping so many people, which is one of the key reasons I was attracted to you.
Thank you so much, Jim. I think that's
Thank you, and wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you.